Hi there, this is Matt at State of Flux, here with a review for Godzilla Tokyo S.O.S. I held off on reviewing this one to release it in tandem with the Fathom event theatrical release of this very film, which is happening tonight. I had never seen this movie before. This was my first outing with it, and the last Godzilla movie that I had never seen. I had zero familiarity with it. I knew it had the same director as the previous film as well as Mechagodzilla. So I came into it pretty excited. I was kind of delighted to see that it was as much a sequel or continuation of Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla as it is a direct sequel to the original Mothra film from 61 or whatever. That was really impressive to me, and they kind of teased that a bit in the previous movie where Mothra was part of that same world. But so far these Millennium films had zero continuity outside of they were direct sequels to the very first Godzilla movie. And I think even in the previous review I started to say that that is beginning to get a bit stale, even though I liked that movie. This one, being a continuation, was the fresh little boost I needed to reinvest me. And for the first two-thirds of this film, I was fully invested, especially with the Mothra stuff. The Mothra stuff is great. It's the Godzilla stuff that is, it's not necessarily less good, it's just, I was more ready to just continue on with Mothra's side of things, because Mothra had been absent largely from the Millennium era, but we hadn't really seen much of her in the Heisei era either. So I was kind of excited to go back to that original film and revisit it, which I don't think I've ever put up a review for, but it's one of my favorite of the early Showa era films. So, I was really invested, but then it kind of got a little hokey towards the end. And I know that's kind of weird coming from like a Godzilla movie. A lot of these things are admittedly somewhat hokey, and that's the charm. But the Godzilla bones of it all, which was talked about and kind of like hinted at in the previous one, is the reason given for Godzilla's constant attack of Tokyo in this film, that as long as Mechagodzilla exists with the disturbed bones of the original Godzilla, Godzilla is always going to attack. Mothra is the guardian, but then Mothra shows up and is completely not capable of taking care of that situation as much as Mechagodzilla is, and so that was kind of bothersome to me. I wanted Mothra to have more of a firm impact, but much like the original Godzilla, or Mothra versus Godzilla, when Mothra goes out in battle, the two kids awake and they come to take on, and that was where it kind of fell apart for me. Was this started as a direct sequel to that first film, and it ended up, the first Mothra film, and it ended up being kind of a redo or a reboot or a remake or a requel of Mothra versus Godzilla, which is already one of the better Showa era films, and I didn't necessarily need a remake of that, which this becomes. It's essentially a remake of that movie just with Mechagodzilla in it, and that kind of bothered me, and I started to, because that was bothering me a little bit and just not settling well, I started picking apart other things, and as I say, it started to feel a little hokey for me. I think it comes together well, and the final scene is good enough. Much like those early Showa era films, the way to defeat Godzilla is to bury him in the water, and that always rang hollow to me because that didn't seem like a victory. Godzilla's already established as an aquatic creature, so you're just sending him home? That's not victory. So that was a little bit of a bust. But I do think this is still a very good movie, and one of the ones I like better from this era of the films. I give it a firm 3 stars. It's probably my least favorite of this director's work, but it's definitely better than Millennium. And I think on par with a lot of what you'd get with the Heisei films, but certainly better than a lot of those latter half Showa films. So, I like Godzilla Tokyo S.O.S. I'm actually contemplating going out tonight and watching it in the theatrical environment because I've never obviously seen it in theaters before. I think this is the first theatrical release of it stateside. So if you get a chance, check it out. And let me know what you thought about this film in the comments down below, especially if you did go to that screening. Thanks for watching, like, subscribe, and next week I'm going to be coming at you, maybe even earlier because I'm excited to watch it again, with a review for Godzilla Final Wars, the final Millennium Era film, before we move on to the legendary movies. Thanks for watching. Peace.